The doctor was about to walk away from medicine. Too tired, too defeated, too broken to continue. He felt his hands no longer had strength, and his heart no longer had hope. After so many years witnessing more goodbyes than miracles, he believed he was not meant for this. He entered neonatal ICU that morning with heavy steps, carrying the guilt of not saving. Everyone carrying the weight of the past. Weeks where everything seemed like failure, and as he walked between the incubators, he made his decision. Today would be his last shift, but fate had other plans. In one of the incubators lay a premature baby so small he could fit in the palm of a hand, a baby fighting for life with every fragile breath. Every tiny movement, the doctor looked at him without expecting to feel anything but something about that baby made him stop for a moment. Maybe it was the way the tiny chest rose and fell with quiet courage. Maybe it was the silent strength of someone who didn't even know the world yet, but already showed a will to live. The doctor approached almost mechanically, opened the incubator window, and placed his hand inside just to adjust the sensor. But then something unexpected happened. The baby lifted his tiny hand, so small, so delicate, like a thread of hope, and wrapped his fingers around the doctor's finger, held it tightly as if saying, "Don't go. Please, don't give up on me. Don't give up on yourself." That simple touch, almost invisible, hit the doctor like a silent lightning. His heart trembled. Something awakened inside him, something he thought had died long ago. And in that single moment, their lives became connected forever. The doctor stood still, staring at that tiny hand gripping his, and for the first time in a long time, he felt the desire to stay, the desire to try, the desire to continue. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a moment, and felt that this was not a coincidence. It was a call, a plea, maybe even a miracle. He opened his eyes, wiped a tear that insisted on falling, and decided he would not leave. Not that day, not like that. That baby needed him, and somehow he needed that baby too. He returned to his work with an energy he had not felt in years. And as he monitored that fragile little body fighting for life, he had no idea that a much bigger truth was about to be revealed. Something that tied this baby to the doctor's own past. Something that would make everything make sense. Something that would prove destiny exists. That life writes impossible chapters, and that sometimes hope returns through the smallest hands. This story was only beginning. The doctor spent the rest of that shift with a different fire inside him. Something warm, something alive, something he had not felt in years. He kept checking the monitors, adjusting the baby's oxygen levels, watching every tiny breath as if each one were a small miracle unfolding before his eyes. He didn't understand why he suddenly cared so much. Why this little premature baby mattered more than any case he had handled in months. But deep inside he knew something powerful had been stirred awake. As the hours passed, he found himself returning to the incubator again and again, drawn by an invisible thread. The baby's tiny hand had let go, but the feeling stayed. The connection stayed like a quiet echo, vibrating in the doctor's chest. He sat beside the incubator, at one point resting his arms on his knees, staring at the fragile body wrapped in tubes and sensors. And for the first time in a long time, he whispered something he didn't expect to hear from his own mouth. He said, "I won't give up on you." He didn't know why he said it or who he was saying it to, the baby or himself. Maybe both. Maybe that was the point. Near the end of his shift, the head nurse approached him, she looked tired, but there was a softness in her expression. She said, "You know that baby is lucky to have you." Doctor almost laughed, not out of joy, but disbelief. He didn't think he had been doing anything special, but the nurse leaned closer and said, "You should know something about him. His mother told us a detail earlier, something she remembered from years ago." Those words made the doctor stand straighter. Something inside him tightened, like a memory pulling at the edges of his mind. The nurse continued, "That baby is alive today because of a decision someone made a long time ago. When his mother was younger, she had a condition that could have stopped her from ever having children, a complication that required a brave choice. From her doctor, she said she wouldn't be here, none of this would exist. If not for that doctor." The doctor felt a strange pressure in his chest, like he couldn't breathe. He asked quietly, "Who was the doctor who made that decision?" The nurse looked at him, confused, almost surprised. "You don't remember," she said. "It was you." The world stopped. The doctor stared at the baby with a new understanding, a deeper truth, the kind that drops into your life like a stone into still water, sending ripples through everything. You thought you knew the baby was here because of him, because years earlier he had refused to give up on the baby's mother, when every other doctor told her there was no chance he had. Fought for her, and now here was her child fighting for life, and somehow returning that fight to him. The doctor stepped back, overwhelmed, his throat tight, his vision blurred, not from fatigue, but from realization. The baby held in his finger earlier wasn't random, wasn't coincidence. It was a circle closing a moment, returning to its origin. A miracle coming back home. And that was when the doctor understood this was not just a patient, this was a message, a sign. A reminder that every act of care, every moment of courage eventually finds its way back to us. And the doctor knew he would never forget this day. The doctor stood there, frozen, unable to lift his eyes from the tiny newborn who now carried a meaning far greater than medicine. He felt like the room itself had shifted, as if every light, every sound, every heartbeat inside that I see you had slowed down to let him truly understand what was happening. This baby was not just another case. He was living proof that choices echo through time, that kindness returns, that miracles sometimes come in circles, not straight lines. He stepped closer to the incubator, placing his hand on the glass, not as a doctor, but as a human being who had just been confronted with something too big, too divine, too perfectly connected to be random. He whispered, softly, almost afraid. "Too disturbed the moment I saved your mother, and now you're saving me." The baby's chest rose and fell with fragile determination, each breath like a quiet message saying, "Keep going, don't give up, you're needed here." The doctor felt tears building again, not from sorrow, but from a gratitude so deep it hurt. He had walked into that room ready to quit, ready to abandon everything he had built, convinced his work no longer changed lives, but now here was the undeniable proof that it had changed at least one, and that one life had created another. He sat down beside the incubator, resting his forehead against his hand, overwhelmed, his mind replaying the moment he had fought for the baby's mother years. Earlier, she had been scared young and alone. He had stayed late at night reviewing her case, refusing to accept the easy answer, refusing to let fear choose for her. She survived because he believed one decision saved her future, and that future now slept in an incubator before him. Hours passed, and he didn't leave. He watched the monitors, the slow, rhythmic blinking of life, the rise and fall of the tiny chest, and the weight in his heart shifted. turning from despair into purpose, into certainty, into something like faith. Nurses came and went quietly, smiling at him, understanding without needing to ask. He wasn't just working, he was healing in more ways than one. His burnout, his doubt, his grief. All of it began to soften to fade, replaced by something warm and steady. And in that quiet, sacred atmosphere, the doctor understood something he had forgotten long ago. Sometimes we don't save people. Sometimes they save us. Sometimes the miracle we've been waiting for arrives in the smallest form imaginable, tiny fingers curled around our own, reminding us why we started. And now he knew he wasn't done, not even close. The story wasn't over. The next days became a quiet miracle unfolding inside the hospital. The doctor refused to leave the baby's side, checking every detail, adjusting every line, every number on the monitors, with the care of someone tending to something sacred. Nurses whispered about how different he looked, how his eyes carried light again, how his steps no longer dragged with exhaustion but moved with purpose. The baby fought hard each day, gaining strength, bit by bit, tiny victories that felt enormous every time his heartbeat steadied. The doctor felt a weight lift from his chest every time the baby's breathing grew stronger. He felt hope settle in his bones in ways he hadn't felt in years. And then it happened one morning as sunlight broke through the blinds, painting the room in gold. The doctor leaned over the incubator, and the baby wrapped those tiny fingers around his again. But this time, it wasn't a plea. It wasn't a cry for help. It felt like a thank you, a silent message saying, "We made it together." The baby's mother arrived moments later, her eyes filling with tears as she saw the doctor standing there. She told him again how grateful she was for what he did years ago, how he saved her life, and how she prayed every day for the people who had protected her without knowing she would one day return to the same hospital, the same doctor, the same miracle. And the doctor told her the truth. He said quietly, "You think I saved you, but you and your son saved me too." She didn't fully understand, but she felt the weight of his words, the truth in them, the depth behind them. Weeks later, the baby was strong enough to leave the ICU. The staff gathered around, cheering softly. The doctor held him one last time, feeling the tiny heartbeat against his chest, as if holding the closing chapter of a story that had rewritten him from the inside out. He walked out of that room different, no longer the man ready to quit, but a man restored, a man who remembered why he chose medicine, a man who learned that miracles often come disguised as the smallest hands. That baby gave him back his purpose, his faith, his reason to stay. And now, whenever the doctor faces exhaustion or doubt, he remembers that moment, the tiny hand, the impossible connection, the miracle that came full circle. Because sometimes God doesn't send answers in thunder or signs in the sky. Sometimes he sends a baby to save a broken heart. If you watched until here and you have faith, like the video and comment. Amen. I believe in God.